Hey everybody, I'm Aaron Simmons. This is Philosophy for Where We Find Ourselves, April 17th, 2024. So today is my 250th video here on YouTube. That is amazing. When I started this channel, I never ever thought that we would hit 250 videos. So I thought as a 250th video special, I would bring you to my university and take you inside a classroom to give you a little taste of some of the big philosophical ideas that I think are really, really worthy of our finitude. I'll see you inside where we can do the 3 biggest lessons from philosophy that I think we all need to learn in our lives, on the trails, wherever we find ourselves. Let's go. All right, everybody, so here we are in a classroom at my university. Welcome to class. And I've got plenty of seats here for you, so grab one and let's dive in. So what are the big takeaways, the big ideas in the history of philosophy that I think are the really important ones, the ones that we always want to kind of have in our back pocket as we navigate the realities of the human condition? So here for the 250th video special, I'm going to give you what I take to be the 3 big ideas in philosophy that are really worth our time, worth our energy, and maybe even worth our life, right? In other words, they are the kind of things that ground lives worth living. So the first thing that philosophy can teach us is that very little is obvious. Now, what does that mean? It means that basically the idea of hermeneutics is inescapable. Now, what is hermeneutics? Hermeneutics is the idea that basically every text requires some degree of interpretive decision. So when we walk into a classroom like this one, you'll notice there's seats around the table. But there's also a podium and a lectern up here. So where is it we sit? Well, very rarely do my students walk in and hop up to the podium and start delivering a lecture because they read this text as already indicating certain types of meaning. They know where to sit because they are reading it correctly in light with social convention. So why is this such a big deal? Because when we appreciate the necessity of hermeneutics, the inescapability of interpretation, it begins to cultivate in us a radical hospitality to the ideas of others. Very little is obvious means we've got to do work to stand where we stand. And this means that there are other places one reasonably could stand. That awareness, that hospitality that it cultivates is actually something I think that is crucial not only for a life well lived, but also for societies that are rightly understood as committed to justice, to charity, to engagement, right? We actually have to take each other seriously because we recognize that the other person might see things differently. Their interpretive decisions, their hermeneutic awareness might actually illuminate or illustrate something that I would have missed given my default settings, assuming something was obvious. So this first point, I think, is what philosophy is at its most basic level. Philosophy is unpacking this realization that things can be understood differently. As I often say, philosophers take seriously what everyone else takes for granted because they put question marks where everybody else puts periods. So, first lesson is we should become philosophers in our lives, not just in the classrooms. Interrogate what you consider obvious and develop a sensibility for hermeneutics so that we live lives of hospitality. The second lesson philosophy can teach us is that arguments matter, and they matter because we are committed to evidence. Another way to put that is we care about reasons. So arguments matter because we are committed to the giving and receiving of reasons. But why should we be so committed to reason giving? To the idea that arguments are actually the fabric of human discourse? Because this is the way that we take each other seriously, not only as competitors, right? We take each other seriously not as obstacles to our own good, but instead we take each other seriously as participants in a dialogue, a discourse about what matters, about what is good, true, and beautiful. But only if we care about the giving and taking of reasons does that conversation get grounded in something more than our own preference. This is what the philosopher C.S. Peirce talks about when he says the best way to fix our belief, to make it stable, is by interrogating the reasons we have for the beliefs we hold. And if it turns out we don't have good reasons, we should rethink that belief. But the only way that we can really work through our reasons is by thinking with others about different ways to see things. So we must be hospitable to others, in part because that's what invites genuine reason giving in a context of argumentative discourse. Not argument in the sense of winning, defeating the other, knocking him over with our staggering rhetoric, but arguments in the sense of being really invested in believing in light of where the evidence takes us. It's what Socrates says when he describes the philosopher as following the beloved wherever it leads. Wherever the argument, the reason, the evidence takes us, that's where we should go. Our belief should conform to the reasons that are given for the best belief out there. And the third thing I think philosophy offers is the idea that ethics is not optional. And what that means is that who we are is already grounded in the importance of ethical relationships. Now, any of you who know my broader philosophical work will know that I am someone who takes very seriously the work of the French philosopher Emmanuel Levinas. Levinas is the thinker who helped me understand that ethics is not an optional thing that we could choose to do with our freedom. It is who we are. We are responsible, as grounded in the reason giving as a social practice that is nested in the importance of hospitality as resulting from the necessity of hermeneutics. This is all an ethical manifestation of the kinds of beings we are. So we are already responsible. We are already normatively constrained. We are already engaged with others relative to a conception of what is good, what is just. Now, that means not that we now have a unified conception of the good. That's part of why we need the good arguments, is to think about what then counts as the good. How then should I live, given that I am necessarily ethically implicated and ethically relational to all others? And this is then also why we should take hermeneutics so seriously, because hermeneutics is how we build the skill set of being able to engage others as the right kind of interlocutor, the right kind of neighbor. So these three ideas are, for me, the core of why philosophy is so relevant to our lives. It's why philosophy can meet us wherever we find ourselves. Because wherever we are, we've got to make sense of that location, hermeneutics. Whatever sense we make, we've got to then engage others about it and try to invite them as they invite us to rethink where we are in the first place. That's the importance of argument and reason giving. And ultimately, we are never fundamentally ethically alone. And that's why arguments are so crucial and hermeneutics are so necessary. I hope this is a cool way of inspiring you to take philosophy seriously in your life. Now, as we are in the classroom, the goal is not to go back to college or get a PhD to become a professional philosopher. The goal is to make philosophy a way of life, just like it was for the ancient Greeks, so that we can seek what they call ataraxia, or inner peace and tranquility that comes from really being able to wrestle through the perplexity that our lives so often throws up to us. That idea of moving through perplexity, not to certainty, but to tranquility, is what philosophy, I think, really can and does offer to us. And oh my goodness, that is desperately needed where we are today. Thank you all so much for supporting this channel, for supporting my public philosophy. 250 videos. It's all because of your thinking with me and talking along the way as we navigate the trails of life. If you have not yet, please get subscribed here on YouTube. Go over to my Substack, Philosophy in the Wild. Get subscribed there as well. There's paid options. I really appreciate the support. And make sure to drop by my website, jaronsimmons.com, where you can also find links to my new book, Camping with Kierkegaard. Thank you again for walking with me and talking along the way. I'll see you next time for 251, unless a piano falls on our heads.